Okay, Deb's lesson on the 2nd of June. So we're looking at Callie today
Yes.
on the video. Any questions you have before we look at the video?
No, she just this new thing she started. So this video was maybe 20 minutes into my ride. Because when she first starts, she just wants to go really fast and is distracted. And so it takes a good 15 to 20 minutes to get her in the thinking mode to really focus on anything. And that's been going on a couple months now.
So do you think challenging her more would help her calm down, or do you feel like not doing too much and just letting her settle is the better option? Or have you tried both?
No, yeah, I think getting her brain busy is what she needs.
Usually that's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they're distracted, and you can think of the distraction and a little bit of anxiety as just extra energy.
Yeah.
So
so I have to do a lot of turns, a lot of transitions, stuff like that to get her after about 15 or 20 minutes to go, oh, okay, now I'm ready to really think.
Okay. So what you would have to do to kind of redirect her attention, which is turn away from the distraction, with or without a little bend of the neck, if you do it to the degree that you also feel the hind hoof placing underneath the body in a deeper step of adduction, you kind of get their attention to shift internally more rapidly.
Okay.
So instead of just turning to get an ear, which is like if they're really volatile and a little bit dangerous, sometimes we don't want to do too much. You're really past that point with her. So this
I think this is just energy. It's not good or bad. It just is there.
Yeah. And a lot of times as we improve balance and the horse becomes more efficient, they don't know what to do with the increased energy levels because they're not working as hard just to move around or keep their balance. So I would say you're going to use one rein to get her attention back on you, turn her away from whatever she's distracted and anxious about. You may have to bend the neck to make a turn, but the turn will have the effect of slowing her as well if she's rushing a bit. And if you do enough of a turn or enough small turns in a row, that you also get the feeling of the placement of the hind leg, of the hind hoof coming towards the center of the body more clearly, then the leg placement also acts as a way to instantaneously shift their attention from out there to inside.
Okay.
So that would be the warm up. And you can use all of that energy right off the bat to say, hey, focus on me. And by the way, find your own hind leg one at a time. Because it's 20 minutes that you could be making an improvement as opposed to sort of feeling like you're waiting for her to settle down. And sometimes they're looking for that from us.
Okay.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So let me see. I think I can make it bigger. Yeah. There we go. Try to move us out of the way. Cool. And so this is after you've just let her find her own way into kind of a calmer state.
I had been doing a lot of turns and transitions. And of course, my horses are muzzled. So half of the experience is her trying to eat grass.
Yeah. Yeah. And I go, that's, it's sometimes just unavoidable.
It just is.
Yeah. And if that's the worst problem we have, it's not that bad.
Right.
But yeah, since you're using turns and having to redirect her a lot, I would just say do enough that you and she become aware of a deeper stride of adduction with the inside hind leg while you're doing that. It's just taking the same technique a tiny bit further. Because then once she's relaxed, she starts to reduce the pushing power. So kind of like they can slow down by taking their foot off the accelerator, or they can slow down by applying the brakes, which is a
Right.
resistant force, but it's active. So once she settles down, it looks like she just wants to take her foot off the accelerator.
Yes.
And so I would use all of that energy where she
Okay.
wants to go forward and see if you can find the balance to that energy with the braking, which is an active force. It's not passive. You start to feel after you get the placement of the hind hoof, then you start to feel secondarily the sort of resistance to the forward motion or resistance to their body weight falling forward.
So I have seen an improvement. I hope it comes out on, we can see it. When I ask her to halt, she used to go into extension, and I think we've gotten past that now, which that's an improvement.
Yeah, and I mean, for this mare, this is pretty good. You've certainly got enough stability through the axial skeleton and enough stability that she can lengthen her neck.
Yes, that's an
And
improvement.
yes, and it looks like you have pretty good steering from the saddle without needing
Yes.
the reins a lot.
Yes.
So that's kind of your primary essential stability. From there, you have to build up more engagement of the hindquarters or take the approach of lifting the back more. Because of her issue with the bit and the reins and her neck arthritis, I would look towards stabilizing the hindquarter in order to get more control over her body weight. Hang on, let me turn the volume down. There we go. So you've got the essential first part. She's out of extension. She's
Okay.
lengthening the top line. She's basically got some steering from the saddle. Check, 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 all those boxes. She's in the learning frame of mind. Check that box too. But when she's not in the learning frame of mind and you have a lot more pushing force, that would be the best time to work on more engagement of the hindquarters.
Okay.
If you try to use just lift the back and use rein resistance with a straight neck, I have a feeling she's just going to fight the bit and drop her back.
Yeah, because even at this point, I am having to put leg on her to go forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. See all these little stops? She wants to eat grass. And I'm saying, no, not yet. No, not yet.
Yeah.
And she thinks, well, if I just slow down, she'll let me eat grass. So
Right.
that's the conversation.
But instead of getting sort of a powerful, controlled walk, she just goes, let me just take my foot off the gas pedal and sort of bloop, bloop, bloop my way down. And she's still got, I mean, obviously, because we're not asking for a higher level of balance yet, she's still got more weight on her forehand than she should. So I like how you're using the tight turns. And just as she does sort of ask you, can I stop? You also get a tiny bit more lift of weight off the front legs. It's minimal. So I go, that's her desire to stop is doing two things. It is creating a tiny bit of lift, like there, where she really tries to stop. But she goes, well, let me just reduce pushing. That's easier than increasing braking. Right. So I would definitely take advantage if this is what you get once she settles down.
Yeah, that's going to get about 20 minutes. Yeah,
it'll be harder for you to get more engagement with her doing this than it will while she's wanting to go forward, even if she's a little excited.
Yeah.
And if your corrections sort of asking for more adduction of the inside hind while she's excited, if that makes her more excited, then your other strategy already works. You know it's going to work by doing less.
Okay.
So I would try doing more.
So what would I do to get more engagement? Just more turns?
At this point, you would have to almost carry a whip because you're already using your legs a lot just to keep the forward motion and resist the stopping. Okay. But in order to increase the braking, you first with her have to increase a little more pushing power, because when you just take your foot off the gas pedal, there's not much to work with. It's just a
Okay.
general reduction of energy. And so you need to get a tiny bit more energy in the walk and on the same tight turns. So when
Tight
you
turns.
go,
Okay.
yeah, when you go into, if you can do tight turns with a straight neck and feel more engagement from one hind leg at a time on the inside of your turn, then you're golden. You're getting enough. I think the reason you're not feeling that here, or it might be difficult to feel, is because she's not coming under herself, but she's also not pushing very much. You don't have
Right.
much of one or the other. So I would increase or use the first 20 minutes of your ride where she wants to increase the push to get a tighter turn. If she's
Okay.
excited, you might have to include a little bit of bend of the neck. So you don't want to hold the turn for more than 2, 3 strides of feeling that hind leg right underneath you,
Okay.
and then let it go. And then if she's excited, do the other side. But while she's excited, use a little bend of the neck and or a tight turn to change the forward placement of the hind legs. And then while she's still pushing, you'll feel that there's just more to work with.
Yeah.
And this is not bad from where she's come from, but this is
Or where
about,
she's come from. Yeah.
right. This is as much progress as you're going to make without engaging the hind legs more or lifting the back more.
Okay.
And you can try it both ways, like on these tight turns with a straight neck. When she falls forward, that would be the moment to maybe not give the reins and use rein resistance on 2 reins while you also push with the legs.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. This is probably the second or third ride that I've actually been able to have rein contact without her going into extension.
Great. And as soon as she either drops the pole or gets above the bit, I would just resort to 1 rein, and you
Okay.
can go between those 2 strategies. You don't have to be all committed to one or the other. The more excitement you have, usually if you add rein contact to excitement energy, you just get a dropped back, or you get a heavy horse, or you get a drop pole.
Yeah.
So if she's offering a lot of forward, you might play with 1 rein at a time on a turn for the adduction. Whoops, I think that's the end.
Yeah. It
And
wasn't very
then
long. I
let me
didn't have a whole
play it
lot of
again.
time.
Yeah, and I would say you're kind of stepping over dollars to spend 20 minutes to wait for her to calm down.
Okay.
I think those are big fat dollars that you could be using to get more adduction of each hind leg, or play with the rein contact on a tight turn and use that more forward energy to also increase the braking.
Okay.
Right. So if it's like if your car is going 50 miles an hour, you feel the active resistant force of pushing on the brakes, especially if it's quick. That's the feeling that we're looking for when we talk about braking.
Okay.
You can also be going 50 miles per hour and you can take your foot off the gas pedal or go up a hill, and you feel that sort of slower reduction of energy in general. So it's not an active force, it's more of a passive force slowing down the car. And it doesn't matter, like at the speed she's going, we could say, okay, she's in a school zone speed,
Mm-hmm.
but you would still have that active feeling of resistance versus what she's giving you, which is sort of a passive, gradual reduction of forward motion.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
And so you'd have to give her a lot of leg. Like you'd have to kind of maybe think of increasing the tempo without increasing the stride length.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And of course, not so much that she resorts back to extension or
Yeah.
defensiveness, but you want to play with pushing for more forward once she's relaxed like this. If you have more forward to work with, I would just take advantage of it.
Okay.
And she's just starting to kind of figure out, like just there in that moment. Let me go back over that a second. Because just there, right around here, she very gently lightens up her front legs, and kind of looks more in control. So here she's falling forward, just there where she slows down a hair. She sort of figures out how to control her body weight a tiny bit better from going to the front legs. That's like a hint of what you're looking for, but it only lasts 2 or 3 strides.
Okay.
And when you go up to trot, the reason it's a lethargic transition is because she hasn't been pushing.
Right.
Right. So, and it's a good example of sort of looking at, like, that's why classically in dressage, they say marching, because it's a controlled forward motion that might be a small stride, but it has some energy as opposed to just sort of walking slowly or shuffling.
Okay. That makes sense to me.
And that's what you get when you balance the braking and the pushing. But if you don't have enough pushing, there's nothing to balance.
Okay.
Right. And with the speed she's giving, if you were to work at this speed, it's going to be even a tiny bit slower when you increase the braking. And so you don't have a lot to work with. Does that make sense?
More leg.
You could work with it, but like I would put this speed on, say, a very, very tight turn or very tight figure 8 and see if you get more resistance to her body weight going forward without her actually stopping. The risk is if you take a slow speed like this, where they're not really pushing, and you put it on a tight turn, they often just lose forward.
That's what's happened in the past. Yes.
Yeah. So on the straight line, you could use transitions to increase energy. You could use a straight line with your leg and whip to increase energy, and then just try a quick tight turn to increase the braking and feel that balance or feel that effect. Like just there, she plays with lightening up her front legs again. So she's dabbling in it. You guys are on a good track, but she's not good enough at it that she really fully unloads her front end.
Okay.
She kind of like, controls her weight a little bit, then falls forward. Then she controls her weight a tiny bit, then she falls forward. Yeah. And because braking is going to reduce speed, you need some acceleration. You need at least a little bit of that impulse to go forward to apply the brakes.
Okay.
But it's looking pretty good. How's she been feeling?
Good. I mean,
she looks much more stable, like she's not pushing you around the saddle nearly as much.
No, she doesn't push. I like that, we're able to just walk to halt transitions without her really going into extension. I can see it a little bit, but it's not as bad as it used to be, because that used to be the big thing. As soon as I got rein contact,
it all fell apart.
A nightmare.
Right.
But now it's very light contact, but she's not trying to go away from it.
Great.
I'm thinking that maybe she even, she really needs it, especially.
She actually does need it, but
yeah.
But she also hated it in the past. So you have a little bit of a memory to work through.
Okay.
But there's a direct correlation between the horse taking a steady rein contact and the steadiness or the control that they have over their own body weight with the hindquarters.
Okay.
So they push their body weight forward, but if they don't control the body weight or resist the body weight in the other phase of the stride through the back, through the hindquarter, then they literally push their own body weight forward and down. Okay. And then they hate the reins because the reins feel so restrictive.
Yes.
Right. But think about, because you did ask for a trot transition. I'm trying to think, did I pass it already or is it coming up?
I'm not sure. It might be. She is usually the one that decides, and it's always has to come off of a turn. Otherwise, she can't get organized enough to trot if it's not off of a turn, if that makes any sense.
And that speaks to the lack of deep placement during the braking phase of the hind leg. So the turn with a straight neck is going to give you a light adduction, abduction. If you bend the neck, you have the negative side effect of rolling the back to the outside, inverted
Yeah.
rotation, but you also get a deeper moment of adduction through the inside hind.
Right.
So you don't want to keep the leg there because the back's dysfunctional, but it can work to teach them that their hind legs could go farther forward than they realize. So you could play with that. And the walk you want, the energy of the walk should always feel like you could trot in the next stride or two,
Oh, good to know.
right? So
That's a
that
good
should be
one.
a walking energy. It doesn't mean, but what you're doing is going from a walk. Shoot, the camera. That looked like you were just about to trot. So it must be
I think
coming up.
she's, yeah, it's always usually going this direction. She's more comfortable doing it. I don't know why.
So the next time, like what you can play with is from this slower walk, gradually keep increasing the tempo. You don't have to
Okay.
necessarily increase the miles per hour a lot, but you want to quicken the steps like that, just like you just did there.
Okay.
And as you quicken the steps, if she goes back into extension, keep the steps quicker and use a little bend of the neck until she keeps the quicker steps and comes out of extension. Because her reaction might be, as soon as you ask for more speed, I'm just going to drop my back.
That's what she does if I'm on a straight line.
Okay, so you can either play on a turn as you increase speed with or without a little bit of neck bend to help her find that balance of increasing the pushing power without resorting back into pushing her back down.
Okay.
Okay, that will also start to help you feel the hind legs. Then once you've got a kind of a feeling in the walk, like you could go into trot in the next stride or two, that's when you want to take that walk on a turn and increase the braking.
Okay.
And if she suddenly feels lethargic again, like you're getting farther away from a trot transition, then go straight, build up the walk speed a little, or build it up on a bigger circle. Build up the walk speed a little until it feels like you could trot. Then turn, look for the inside hind placement, and look for that resistance to the speed to get more lift. And you might not feel the lift at first. You might just feel her not fall forward so much.
I feel the lift when she chooses to trot because she seeks that level of organization before she'll trot. That's why sometimes if I ask her to trot, I won't get it because she's like, no, I'm not ready.
Right. So what I would do, because you've really reached a plateau with what you're going to get, you have the best you're going to get with her choosing the speed.
Okay.
Okay. And it's good. It's a good platform to build on. So what you want to look at is either increasing the braking with the speed she's giving you, if that doesn't result in her completely stopping and shutting down to the point that it's hard to get her to go forward. Because you can increase braking at any speed. So you don't necessarily have to increase the pushing. It's just if you make the turn tighter or you ask her to have more control over her body weight, then some horses will stop and it's hard to get them going again.
Right.
So if it's hard to get her going again, when you increase braking from her speed, there it is. Let me go back. Then you need to increase the pushing before you can increase the braking.
Okay.
Right? If she maintains forward while you increase braking, yeah, then you're golden. You can work at a slow speed. It's no big deal.
And that was her choice to trot, not I just go with it. If she wants to do it, I'd let her trot.
So let's look at that setup. So she's coming from a turn.
It's always coming from that turn, that direction. I'm not able to trot going the other way.
Yeah. So there she breaks a little bit. She resists the fall forward. She comes up a little. And I don't know if she's going into trot as an avoidance to more engagement or because she feels the engagement? It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but that's when I truly feel that she's making an effort to lift her back, is when she chooses those trot transitions.
Yeah, because it is a lot of work for the back muscles at the walk. So she may be taking that step or two of trot to just relieve the work of the back muscles. But as soon as she trots, she falls forward more
Falls
than
apart.
in the
Yeah.
walk, right?
Mhm.
So so the two approaches are, because you can get a pretty tight turn with a straight neck without having to use a lot of reins.
Okay.
If she
Yeah.
doesn't stop, that degree of turn that you just did, right about, it's a pretty tight turn. Like if you continued on this arc where she starts to break, it would
Mhm.
be about a 10-foot circle,
Okay.
right? So if what you do is you do about a quarter of a 10-foot circle and then you go straight and she
Okay.
falls forward. So if you could get her to do a 10-foot circle left and then right, and she didn't refuse to go forward or really fight your leg aids, then I would play with that with a straight neck at the speed she chooses, using your leg just enough that she doesn't stop. If you feel like you have to use your legs way too much to the point you're getting tired, then do a half of a 10-foot circle and on your straight line, really sort of, encourage a burst of forward. So a little tap
Okay.
with the whip or a little more with the legs, like you're going to go to trot. And
Okay.
as soon as she feels like she could trot, you do a half of a 10-foot circle the other direction.
Okay.
And so it would be more like, if you don't need to increase pushing, your figure eight looks like two tight circles end to end, right?
Okay.
If you need to increase pushing, you're expanding the distance between two half turns. So it kind of comes out as an elongated X with a half a circle at either end.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And so you have a moment, and if you stay on that pattern more or less, every time you come out of your circle, like you're feeling already, that's her best moment to try to get into trot.
Mhm.
So as soon as you come around the edge of your half circle, she'll start to anticipate the trot across the
Yes.
diagonal line, and that will work in your favor to build energy,
Okay.
right? And then you build up the energy on the diagonal line, and then you sit and increase the braking power with whatever energy you built up on your diagonal line. You're going to resist the forward energy on the half circle.
Okay.
Okay. And then if that causes the horse to stop, you build up the energy again going on the opposite diagonal line. And that way you never have to bend the neck at all. You could do all of that, either the tight little round circles end to end or the longer elongated X, without ever having to bend the neck. If that's still not enough to control her own body weight going forward, or if increasing the pushing increases her back going down, then you need to play with a little bit of neck bend left to right to get the job done.
Okay.
And you saw the video of me on Prima
Yes.
at last week's meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, so that video of Prima is a good example of, with her, I have to tuck into bending the neck on a tight turn just to get her to change her hind leg placement. But it's like one or two strides, let her fall forward, go forward. One or two strides on the other leg, let her fall forward, let her go forward, until slowly I can do a tight turn with a straighter neck and still get the hind leg to come up underneath.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing when what I was doing when she has all that energy,
Mm-hmm.
is very small tight turns.
Perfect. Then
Yeah.
you're using it the right way. And that's all my point was don't let that energy go to waste.
Mhm.
Use that energy. And that might be too, especially if she's really anxious and really distracted, play with a little bit of bending the neck and see if you
Okay.
can feel the hind hoof adducting deeper for just a stride or two. Don't try to hold
Okay.
her there, but
Okay.
just a stride or two. Because you're getting there. She's on the brink of being able to unload her front legs. But without more rein resistance or without more braking from the hindquarter, she's a little bit in this place where she's comfortable, but too much on the forehand.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, and you may get a lot more trot as you either build up the pushing power or the braking power, because sometimes once they feel the back muscles working that much, the trot is easier for them.
Mm-hmm.
But the same feeling sort of applies. Yeah, and when
Yeah,
you
see
got that,
there, I asked for trot and she completely went into extension. I
yeah,
felt
it
her
wasn't
back
bad.
drop and then
That little burst of energy, like there, that's the walk you want the whole time.
oh, okay.
That's the walk. That's where you have enough pushing power to also brake.
Okay.
It won't rewind. So let me go back over that, because you're thinking trot rather than thinking in your mind about maintaining the walk.
Yes.
And that's the walk you want. The walk where
Okay.
you are about to trot, but you decide not to. Just there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That
And
makes
then
sense.
she fell forward and you said, okay, never mind. But like, even if she falls forward, I would continue with that energy in your body
Okay.
or that leg aid that gave you that burst of energy.
Okay. That
That,
makes sense.
yeah, that's the walk you want to look for sure. And you see, she kind of finds her when she feels you ask, she plays with her hind legs a little. Or
Yeah.
that might have been a change of direction. She played with her hind
We were
legs a
having
little.
an argument about which way we were going to go.
Ah,
She wanted to go, she always wants to turn to the right. And I was blocking that, going, no, we're going to go left.
yeah. Yeah. So when she starts to take her foot off the gas pedal, that's when you push
Okay.
until she maintains a more active pushing force through her hind end. And it's possible, like some horses I ride, there's just no getting away from a negative reaction to the leg. So I have to work with the speed they give me and increase pushing.
Right.
But it still could be a lot of work just to tell them don't halt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So play with both ways and see how she
See
does.
what happens. Yeah.
She will definitely prefer one over the other.
Yes.
I accidentally hit my little sound system. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, now I can hear you. It disappeared. It's a little roller and I went, oops, I turned the volume off. Okay, any other questions?
Nope.
You think that gives you enough to work with?
Yeah. Yeah. I do.
Good, good, good.
Yes. Cool. Thanks.
All righty. Trying to figure out how I get out of here. Oh, there we go. Stop the share. Okay. All right, my dear, let me know how it goes.
Yeah. I can't wait to play with those ideas.
And I think she is so committed to keeping her neck long these days instead of
Yes.
shortening it and sticking it up in the air, that I think you could really safely push her a bit more than you used to be able to do.
Right.
And if she goes back into extension or she pushes back a little bit, I don't think it's going to last long.
Okay.
I mean, she'll try it, but I wouldn't worry about it too much unless it starts becoming a pattern again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
definitely more guidance.
Okay.
And more challenge.
Yes, definitely.
Okie dokie.
All right. Thanks.
All right. See you later.